Hi, Carey. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being a guest for a new podcast episode of The Life of a Social Media Manager. Before starting and discussing everything about social media, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So thank you very much, Adina, for asking me to be on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. A little bit about myself. My name's Carys. I live in the UK in an area called Buckinghamshire, and I run a digital marketing agency called the Polka.
Mm-hmm. So you help clients to beat the digital overwhelm, offering trainings and consultancies. How your days look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. What does an average day look like? I guess it's a bit of a cliched answer to say that no day's the same, but there's often truth in cliche, and any business owner will tell you that, of course, no day is the same, and that's part of the enjoyment of the job. But I can definitely pull out some themes for you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that works in social will tell you that every day is a thumb workout because there's a lot of scrolling involved. And of course, we check our clients' accounts, we check competitors' accounts, we see what's going on both on their paid media, on their organic media. We check for trends. We kind of just get a feel for what's happening on social on that day. So yeah, there's a lot of scrolling. As the business owner, I often work on longer term projects too. I think that real change is often achieved over the longer term. So we partner with our clients on longer term pieces of work and projects to try and realize their goals through opportunities that can be found in digital marketing.
Okay. I think I get what you said at the beginning. I think I get the same answer from other social media managers or social media
Yeah.
experts. Everyone who is working in social media, the days look pretty different because, yeah, you have to check what happening over the night to see the trends, to see if, I don't know, maybe an algorithm change appeared suddenly. So everyone start with this scrolling in the first part of the day.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of your skill as a social media person, that you have to be flexible. So you might think that your day is going to start in one way and you might have a plan for what you're going to do. But if something's happened in the news or something's happened in a particular industry, you actually have to jump on that really quickly and be prepared to change. So I think flexibility and adaptability are key to a social media manager's life.
Yeah, true. How did your passion for social media start?
Well, I love communication, and in fact, when I left university, I started work in public relations, and that was actually a long time ago, and it was before social media even existed. But I remember when a thing called Web 2.0 came into being, and at that point in time, I was working in a digital team, so I was working on a fledgling website for a national UK retailer. And this thing called Web 2.0 was being talked about. And it seemed to me to be really exciting because it was allowing for the first time normal people to be able to put their thoughts and opinions and feelings onto the internet. So no longer did the brands just own the internet. Normal people could have their say too, and that really excited me, and I persuaded the business at the time that they should get on board. And of course, Web 2.0 was the beginning of what social media was to become. And over those years in the noughties, we went from calling it Web 2.0 and doing presentations to the board about forums and blog sites where you could make comments, to actually this is a thing called Facebook. That was the first social media site that I remember selling into the business. And this is something that we need to put time and investment into. So that's how my passion for social media started. It was from a point where it felt exciting that real normal people, the audience, could start to have their say on the internet.
I think some of these are still available today. I mean, social media is still a place where people share what they are feeling, even if they are referring to specific brands or NGOs or businesses or the service they are using, or just for themselves and sharing with their friends. What are the most important lessons what are the most important lessons you've learned through the years?
I think there's a couple of key principles that anyone that works in social media and indeed marketing can have in their minds. And that is to think strategically and have in mind the client, or if you're working in-house, your own brand. Have the goals and your objectives always in mind, but being able to combine that with tactics and being able to combine that with being able to actually deliver a campaign is what is the potent mix that makes a really good social media person. And that's the lesson that I would say has been most important to me, to learn how to combine a strategic overview with a practical delivery of tactics. And what is particularly challenging, and I think it's a difficult lesson to learn, is to know when to say no. So brands don't have infinite budget and they don't have infinite resource, and everything takes effort and energy. So actually part of the skill is knowing when you need to test and learn, and that's brilliant and you can get loads of value from that, but also when it's actually can be a waste of time and effort and energy. So saying no can be as important as saying yes. And it's sometimes difficult to know when the right moment to do that is.
Yeah. It actually, over the years, I have learned that everyone knows social media, but actually no. It's just a feeling that if you are posting something on your personal account or your individual account, it doesn't mean that you know the tactics, the strategies, and you know how to deliver the right message tied to your goal, to your business goals. So it's pretty important to share messages that are valuable to your audience, that they are say something to your audience, and not just sharing images, funny images, and in the end there is no results. There is no business results.
Absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I might want to share a photo of my holiday and my friends might want to see it, but it's an absolutely different matter when I'm working on behalf of a client. It's always about the audience first, rather than posting what, they might deem to be interesting. So audience first, as you rightly say.
Yeah. How would you describe social media today?
It's difficult because it changes all the time. And in the last 18 months, Instagram, for instance, feels like a completely different place, and that's driven by, of course, the rise of TikTok. And if we'd have been having this conversation just 2 years ago, it would feel completely different again. So the fact that it never stops evolving is challenging. And that's particularly challenging to the organizations that want to utilize social media, to achieve their own goals, because it never stands still. And so going back to my earlier point about reconciling a solid strategy, using your audience insight as your foundation, but understanding the tactics of the platforms and how they work individually is really difficult to achieve. And that's why so many small businesses and charities really find that difficult. Social media today is busy. It can feel cluttered. it changes all the time, and it can feel very confusing. So it's important to kind of stand still, look at your audience, look at where your affinity is with your audience, and actually take a step back and work out what you want to try and achieve, because you won't be able to achieve everything through social media.
Yeah, and I think that you shouldn't be on all platforms. Just go where your audience is and focus on those specific platforms, and don't try to be everywhere and expect to have the best results on each platform, because first you have to learn the platform, you have to learn the tactics, the changes, and then see what's working for you. Maybe analyze the competitors and see if they are already there, and then start to create content on that specific platform. So I'm more, I always suggest to our clients, to Socialinsider clients, to start to always perform and scale on what works the best. So if Instagram works for you, if Twitter works for you, LinkedIn works for you, scale more on this platform, and then try, let's say, TikTok, because TikTok, everyone wants to be on TikTok, but it's a whole different way of doing content for this platform.
Absolutely. And it can be a great challenge. And so you don't want to spread yourself too thinly, right? You want to do one thing well, really excel in that, learn what works, take the learnings, and see if you can extrapolate that out and repeat somewhere else. But it might not be taken for granted that you can, because as you say, something like TikTok is, it's a time-consuming beast. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
What are can you tell me some key elements for creating a good social media strategy today?
I think exactly as you just said, Adina, that a good social media strategy comes from the audience first. And so often we start a conversation with a client and they talk tactics first, because they want to get on TikTok, as we've just been talking about. But actually, if you strip that back and you work out what your audience wants and how they think and feel, and how you can speak to them in a natural and authentic manner, then you can start to build on that solid foundation of understanding how they work, what they want, what they would find valuable, and you build your social media strategy from there. What platforms do they hang out on? What is important to them? How do they speak? How would they like to be spoken to? What kind of content do they consume, and what would they like to consume? What issues in the world are they following, and how is their kind of life at the moment? And you build the building blocks slowly but surely from there. So you don't let the as the expression goes, the tail wag the dog. You start from the ground up and you build with audience insight. That's, I believe, the only way that you can do it. And if you start with tactics first, you won't be able to achieve anything long term. You might be able to do a short-term campaign and it might feel kind of good in the moment, but once that's over, it's very difficult to sustain something if you haven't built up a solid audience insight before you launch into your social work.
Yeah, I think that this year and next year, communities are the ones that are the most important for a brand. So look at your audience insights, understand where they're most active, and build a community where they are the most active, and build an engaging community on those platforms, channels, whatsoever. Organic versus paid. What's your take here?
Yeah. Sorry, Adina,
yeah.
It dropped out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
You're still with me.
Yeah, I'm still there. Is it still recording?
Yeah, it's still recording.
Yeah, good.
So yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Organic versus paid. What's your take here?
Good question. Well, I think that they are friends, or they should be friends, and they are not mutually exclusive. In in fact, in my experience, the best results come when an organization is able to deploy both tools from its toolkit, organic and paid social. They do different jobs, of course. And it's very difficult at the moment, particularly on the meta platforms, to get real traction without having a paid budget, unless you're famous or celebrity or an enormous brand.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's be honest, most people are not, and they need to work really hard to build up their, you know, their engagement, their followers, their, you know, drive towards their goals, their conversions, whatever they're trying to do. So without a paid budget, it can be really difficult. On the converse, or conversely, I would say that if an organization ignores social media and organic social media and just puts in place paid social, it almost disregards the essence of what social media is about. And going back to my earlier point about social media almost democratizing the idea that normal people can get their voice heard in the public domain. If a brand says, we don't want to play in that space, we'll just throw money at it and pay to be on social, it's slightly disrespectful, I think, to the audience that spends a lot of their time consuming organic content. So they both have a role to play. They're both important. It can be a real challenge to make one work if you don't have the other at your disposal.
Yeah, I'm agree with you, because I think that organic helps you achieve long-term goals, while the paid helps you to have quick wins, but you cannot keep those wins for a longer time because you don't have a based you don't have an engaged community with organic content.
Exactly right. You haven't used your audience to build up a kind of sense of who you are as a brand and how you're appearing on social and what you stand for. You can't really do that with paid social alone. You do need both. And they, you know, they work in harmony and they complement each other.
Yeah, I agree with you. How would you describe a good piece of content today? Why people share posts from brands on social?
If I answer the second point of that question first, it will probably answer the first bit. So I think that people share content because it makes them feel something. It makes them either, it might make them laugh. It might make them feel smart because they've learned something. It might inspire them. It might kind of echo with, you know, a public mood or something that's happening. But essentially it cuts through to some kind of emotion, and it's that kind of content that people want to share. You know, they want to make their friends laugh too. They want their friends to learn the same cool thing that they've just learned. They want their friends to see the latest design or whatever it is that they're into. And therefore, a good piece of content today is a piece of content that makes the audience feel and makes them want to share it with their friends. And I think the trick for you know, for brands working in social is to combine those three elements of audience and what that audience wants to consume, creating content that can be then can trigger some kind of emotion. You know, it can be a really good emotion too, you know, make someone laugh. And then lastly, being guided by the platforms, the networks themselves, to use the right type of format of content. You know, as we all know, short form video at the moment is the thing on all platforms. And so if you can combine those three elements, then you could potentially be onto a winner.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
It's pretty difficult to create and combine these three elements into one single post or short video, and to get shares and comments from the post that you are publishing on social media.
Absolutely. And sorry, Dina, I'll just
Yeah.
add one more point to that. And actually, if we think about how we share now, it isn't necessarily through sharing through the networks. We often just take a screen grab and send it in a WhatsApp group. So sharing has taken on a slightly different form than how we may have viewed it a few years ago, when we would have thought, right, let's see if we can get shares on those share buttons. But actually, there's you know, people are using the platforms in a different way than they were maybe envisaged for.
Yeah. I read some statistics about the dark social media, where people are sharing messages through different platforms like WhatsApp, Discord, Messenger, where you don't get those numbers through the analytics. But also that means a share, and the impact is much higher than what you are seeing from while you are scrolling the feed, compare it with what you get through a private message.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can brands create engaging content these days? So you said that, okay, you have to build content with the audience, with your audience in mind. It have to be you have to drive the emotion, and it have to be tailored to the platform. Would you like to add something else here?
Yeah, all of those things, and none of that is easy, let me add. You know, it's a challenge, and no one gets it right all of the time. You know, this week here in the UK has been a strange week, because Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II died at the end of last week, and so it's been a really unsettling time. And there's been a kind of strange phenomenon on social media, actually, in that organizations, and obviously there's real people on their laptops who are creating this content, just felt moved that they wanted to react to this event. You know, they may have had no royal connection as a company or as a charity, but it has illustrated that actually, when something really big happens, people just want to react as people. And I think that has demonstrated that ultimately you just need to feel it just needs to feel human. And sometimes that's difficult when there's a big sign-off process to get a social post out, or there's lots of different departments that all have, you know, a kind of slice, or, you know, all have their finger in the pie. But sometimes things happen that are so big that they just warrant a human reaction, and this week has definitely demonstrated that. And I think it just shows that's when social can be really powerful, when we just talk to each other like we'd talk to each other in real life, and we don't overthink it.
Yeah, because actually you're talking always you're talking with humans. Even if you are a brand, you represent a brand, and you are posting on social the messages from that particular brand, actually you are spreading messages to other humans. So I think it's important to keep that, even if you are doing social media marketing for B2B, actually it's always human to human, and make sure you tailor your message to humans.
Exactly. There's always a human scrolling on the phone.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. I think the podcast and the knowledge part has over with in this episode. Who should be my next guest on the podcast?
Oh, there's so many brilliant people on social media that it's difficult for me to say. But
I will take notes.
Okay. Well, I'm a politics geek, and I think that there's a particular account called Simply Politics that does a brilliant job at sharing simple, useful content on a regular basis. It's not full of fancy tricks, but it's just really great, and it has a really big following. So I'd love to hear how they perceive the world of social media.
Okay, thank you. And Carys, can you tell us where people can find you?
Of course, you can find us at thepolka.co.uk. You can find me personally on LinkedIn, and my name's Carys Dorritt. I think I'm the only one, which is quite useful. And you can also find me on Instagram at Polka Digital.
All the links will be included in the description in the podcast. So thank you so much for sharing all these insights and your life story with us. And see you soon.
Thank you so much, Adina. It's been a pleasure.